All the charts are ready. So good morning. This is Simon with Trade and Perform Coaching doing the market preview for the 16th of May. Man, this year's just freaking steaming by with absolutely no rest whatsoever. So just real quick before we get started, I hate this, but I have to throw it up, and I don't have it up. That's terrible. So hold on one second here. Get this off screen and go to desktop. Search for this. There we go, and this will be up shortly. There we are. So if you'd like to take a moment to read the disclaimer, past performance not indicative of future results. This is for educational purposes only. I am not a financial advisor, right? Make sure you know what you're doing. If you're trading futures, consult with a financial advisor. Make sure it's appropriate for you. You can lose your ass trading futures. I take losing trades all the time. It's part of day trading, right? You should get used to it. If you're going to day trade, right? Trying to trade without losses is a feat that few, if any, accomplish. However, there are those that accomplish week over week, month over month, and day over day consistent profitability, right? So that's different than not taking any losses, right? That the goal of the room is to strive to find the best setups, right? And trade patiently. So we're going to start off with CL this morning. And actually, I'm going to start off even better than that. I'm going to start off with, let's go CL and then we'll work our way over to it. So the charts have already been posted. Number one, CL. See this? Tons of energy. This thing is dying to make a vertical move. See this right here? This is a gap in the US session. Now, the last time we had a gap like this was on this day right here, 513. If we look at the half-hour time frame, notice that this day was not in trouble. See how this started off as a nice gap and what you would have thought as a potential move to the upside. As a matter of fact, it traded right into and just missed the TPO point of control. It hit the volume point of control, but didn't hit the TPO point of control. Rejected and swept the range and crushed everyone who thought that was a gap out of balance. And it sure looked like a damn good gap out of balance to me, right? So this morning we have the same setup. We are gapping. Right, so I have a couple of questions when I start the day. Number one, I want to keep an eye on, it's bullish. Zach, I don't know if you're still long from yesterday. My upside goal was 62.80 for yesterday. 62.50 to 62.70 was the zone. As a matter of fact, I have this up here for yesterday. CL 0515 EOD. I guess I didn't save it. I thought I did. Oh, you know what? I'm sure I posted it. Let's go look over here. Here we go. There's the zones posted from last night. NQES. Did I not post the CL? Shame on me. Okay, that's all right. Here is CL from yesterday. Okay. And what you will notice when you look at this is that the target, right, which is the yellow zones, was right here, that 62.53 to 62.70. And last night, right, you look at that same area. I'm going to drag this chart over, right, and what you will see is we went right to 62.60, 62.70, right in there, right at. And see, that's Thursday morning. That's today. It was last night because I was here watching it. It was right here at 8 o'clock, and we were rejected right out of that 62.60. You can see we bounced along it all night long. These are very small range bars, and now you can see we've broken above, right? So now that we've broken above, right, so it hit my target to the upside. It's this yellow zone. Now we have to deal with this 62.87 to 63.08, which is my white zone. I would expect initial rejection at a 62.87 to 63.08, which means it's right where we're at. But more importantly, what I'm looking for is to get an over-under. And then this green dotted line right up here, right, that green dotted line is the prior high. So see how I'm tying the charts in together? This is the swing high from 513. Obviously, if we're going to go up, we've got to beat it. So there's two things you should be concerned about if you're trading CL. A, do we get a repeat of 513? And how would we know? So there was a couple of clues in 513. I want to talk about it because it applies to all markets that are gapping. Okay. Number one clue, if we go look at 513, I'm going to use a 15 range bar on this so I can do this easily. Let's use the 5 minute. Here we go. There's the 5 minute chart with the zones. If I go back to 513, right, let's make this as easy as humanly possible. We can look at it from two perspectives. First, we'll look at it from the day session. So the zones are not appropriate for 513, right? This is here. Chart, duplicate chart. Shove this back onto the other screen. Chart settings. Advanced settings. Okay. So there's your gap from 513. US session only, meaning 8 a.m., right? So number one thing you could have done is looked like this and gone, okay, my early warning system, which I coach to every single person I coach, if we get underneath the 62 retrace here, so you'll see how they try to hold the 50-60 retrace of the day session? Notice that getting underneath it was the first clue. So now you can come over here, right, and go, and we have a couple of pieces. Notice it's the same 50-60 where we failed is what we're gapping into. Funny how the market does that, right? So I know if I get underneath here, right, first of all, if you look back and compare those two dates, right, so here we can do it like this. There we go. Number one, do I get underneath the first 5 minute bar? Well, here's my first 5 minute bar. If we're going to trend up, I'd want to take a shot. If I thought I was going to trend up, which is not my trading style, but if I thought we were, right, I'd want to try to find an entry to see if we hold that first 5 minute bar, because a lot of trend days up, we'll start with that first 5 minute bar being the low of the day, and then we trend up. So would I be willing to take a stop on that? Yeah, probably. And then what would I do with that stop if I was willing to take it? I'd want to make sure I hold above this, right? That's obviously going to be an important area because that was the important area the day we failed, 62.77, right? So we're above the 62.77. So my question would be, A, the 5 minute bar. B, even if we get underneath the 5 minute bar, do we get underneath 62.77? And C, even if we get underneath 62.77, do we backside test it for potential roll back in and attempted gap fill? But guess what? If we don't get underneath that first 5 minute bar, odds are shorts are going to be squeezed, and the natural place to squeeze is back up that high at 63.33. This is not taking into account volume, TPO, anything else. That's just a basic layout of the chart, right? Next, the important 50-60 is from yesterday's low, right? I would expect if we got back here, responsive buyer. So you can just have a whole separate chart based on the 50-60s, right? So that's from yesterday's low to today's high. And then you want to also include the swing low, right? And then you go look for clues within the chart for what that area is. So there's the swing low. That makes this whole area right in here, this whole thing, 62 to 61.60, prime location for a great swing back to the upside if that fails. If that fails, right? Why? Because everyone's going to look for this, right? And this would be a great place to trap all late shorts and push back up, hypothetically. Hold on a second. I need to set an alarm VIP for 10:45.
Setting the alarm. The alarm is set for 10:45.
Got it. Okay. So I just have a meeting I have to make at 11:30. I need an alarm to remind me, so I did that. So there's a couple of questions that I have right out of the gate. This is without looking at the chart or anything else. What is this? This is background information, so I know what I'm looking for on the trade. Next, I can go to the overnight session, right? And I can go, okay, well, here's where the Asian session started. This is the Asian swing low right there. It was also the session swing low, right? And then this is my last swing low of the entire session. Why is that important? Because we're not bearish, right? Even remotely bearish until we get underneath the last swing, right? So 62.34 to 62.20 becomes another area. Why? It has nothing to do with the volume profile or the TPO. That's where everybody else who knows nothing about volume profile or TPO is going to look. They're going to go, oh, prior resistance becomes support, right, for a rotation up. Prior resistance, right, now becomes support for a backside test for a push to the upside, right? And now we don't know how the whole market or how the whole world will respond. That's the part where we look for our intraday setups, right? And then lastly, if this is my swing low, right, I have one more 50-60 to look off of within the US session, and that's this right here. What do all these do? These are all tripwires, right? So let me show you how that would have worked the other day. I'm going to take this picture, right? Let me go chart. Duplicate chart. Okay, and now I'm going to take that same idea, this same project that we just did, right? I'm going to have this chart over here. Okay, and now I'm going to take this chart and do like so. But now I'm going to, so I have a picture of what I'm looking at, right? You can see someone was going to come in and try to sell that, right? So the question is, can they get below the first 5-minute bar, past the 62.77, et cetera, et cetera. So now we're going to come over here and we're going to erase all lines. And now we're going to take the same picture. So see how it looks very similar to 513. Right? So now we're going to do all the same things that we just did, and I'm going to do it in the same way that I just did it. First, I'm going to get rid of the evening session, and I'm going to go, okay, A, there's my opening drive. I'm going to have to blow this up. And if you do this, your mind will start to recognize. So notice, there's my 50-60. Number 2, prior day's low, current high. Notice they tried to hold it there. Why do I say they tried to hold it there? See how it consolidated and broke? See how so these are 5-minute bars, right? So it hit the 50 retrace, counter rotated back up. That was an okay trade if you're just looking for a place to scalp. That was a 10-cent, 15-cent trade, right? Came to the 62 retrace, to the tick, counter rotated. That's another 10, 15-cent trade, right? Closed underneath, backside tested the 62 retrace, rejected and rolled on down. This is my last swing low of the afternoon right here. See that? Also the settle price, but more important to me was the last swing low. So if I take a line, I draw it underneath there, I can see, lo and behold, that when we got to that little area, they attempted to hold that along with the swing low as well. Again, if you took a scalp there and you're looking to counter trade locations, they reversed it, then prior day low, they just blew the crap out of everyone who tried to counter trade there, and that's fine. You can see it consolidated underneath, never made it for a backside test. Notice the trap on 514 back into the 510 low, right? So next, I can go and say, okay, well this was my first clue, excuse me, that there was a problem. I wonder if it's this room is just making me sick. I'm not sure. It's a new office for me, and I don't ever have this much congestion problem in the morning, and I don't have it until I walk in here. So we'll see what the deal is. There's my first clue. By 8:20, I want to be done earlier than this, right? Here's clue number 2. Here's clue number 3, that there's a problem. But first problem was here. Now let's throw it onto a 24-hour chart, right? And we can plug in our overnight. Now we'll see from the overnight, right? Here was my overnight swing low. We're going back to 510, 513, excuse me. Now I can plug in my overnight. Here's Asia Open. Asia Open was the low, right? Now, normally, I got to tell you, I had one person said, hey, I knew it was going to reverse and sweep the range and blah, blah, blah. If you normally start off a pattern like this and you come into the US session, right, and your pattern looks like that, right, and you were telling me that that's going to reverse and sweep the whole range, I call you a losing trader the majority of the time, because that is a 1 out of 50 shot. It is going to reverse that entire range, right? So next, here's the 512, here's the 513. 513 is when we reversed, right? Here's the 513 reversal. Here's from the 512 low. I apologize, I had that low. From the 24 hours. Okay, I see what I'm doing wrong. So from Sunday evening, that's what it had to be. From Sunday evening to the US session open, right? That's what was missing off the 24 hours. That 50-60 comes right over here, right? So I want to know, did they try to hold it, right? And so I'm going to come right over here and look. And lo and behold, right, see when we came right into the 50, see how they tried to hold that? And then here's the 62. See how they tried to hold that? How do I know that? Because the next bar swept that 62 to 20 range, right? And they tried to hold it right off the 50, just slipped underneath, and they tried to hold that because I got a green bar. I know that people are trying to trade those 50-60s. Computers are, people are, there's no question, right? Next, out of that whole 24 hours, notice that this was the last, before the open, this was the last swing low in that 24 hour. This section right here, that was a problem getting underneath that, right? And then from the start of the European session, which is 2 a.m., since Asia was a swing low, right? That was my swing low from the European session. And I can start to build my 50-60. So you're going, Simon, I'm getting dizzy with these 50-60s, right? But what you're going to notice is that each step of the way, if you do this, these are all just warning signs that they're ticking off. And the first warning sign was getting behind the first 50-60, right? Because when we trend day up and we start off the US session with an open drive higher, you don't get behind the 62 retrace. And that's what you need to know about today, is that the strongest markets don't get behind the 62 retrace. Secondly, this is the 62 retrace right here from the Asia's London swing low to the US session high. And from a 24-hour perspective, again, on trend days up, we just don't get behind this 50-60. Where is this? Let me point this out. That is this 50-60 right here. That was a problem getting behind that. It got behind the 50-60 and got behind the last swing low prior to US session open. That was the problem. Then lastly, the 50-60 from swing low to swing high, which was this right here, this 50-60, we don't get behind that either. All of that holds, right, and gets some kind of counter rotation. And then notice the change in character where the downside bars were minuscule over here. Look how big the bars to the downside got on the 5-minute chart. And you get all that information just from drawing 50 retraces. And why is that? Because the nature of the market, when it's trending strongly, it doesn't get past the 50-60s, any 50-60s. Like if you start drawing them here, watch this. If you start drawing the 50-60s, right, and you start here, notice it gets back to the 50-60. From that 50-60 to this 50-60, notice it just misses. From this 50-60 over here, just hits. From this 50-60, right, up here, just misses. From here to here, just hits. From here, right, notice it come all the way up like this. We never hit it. See that? Or we hit it just to the tick. Finally, just that 50-60. From here to here, we hit that 50-60. So when we're trending up, right, that 50-60, notice that all the way up, they can't violate it, right? So the first time you violate it and you have an expansion in the 5-minute downside bars on top of that, you should just be going ding, 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 ding. There's a problem. That doesn't happen while we're trending strongly up. It does not mean you end up with a trend day down. There's just a clue, right? So now we can go all the way over here, right? All the way over here, and you can look from this swing low over here. Let's just start from here, right? From here to here, 50-60. From here to here, 50-60. In Asia, we get behind the 50-60 and roll down, and the 50-60 that's coming back to you is they're still using this big picture 50-60 right here, which is what we trade into, right? And then we start again. We break the swing high. We draw it up. They attempt to get behind the 50-60. They hammer behind it, right? So that's 4:30 in the morning, our time. But then they come up and make a new high. And notice that even when we get behind it, it doesn't close at the low. So you'll notice last time when we broke it, right? See how that bar that broke back over here was decisive. It closed on the low, that 5-minute period, right? So this applies to all markets. Doesn't matter what you're trading, right? So then finally, we come up here. That's our last swing low. There's your 50-60. We haven't hit the 50-60 since then. And guess what we just tagged into? The 50-60. You want to know why that is? That's easy to program, and computers are trading it all day long. So now you know what today needs to look like in order to have it break down is that 50-60 process. You take that and you layer in on top of that, your key locations, which are these. Okay, those are my key locations. We're right into the white zone at 62.87 to 63.08. Where did we reject from? 62.87 to 63.08 is a white zone. Rejected out, made it to the 50.60. So my question for the day now is this. We've been into the white zone and rejected. Am I going to get set up on my intraday charts to figure out whether we're going higher or lower? And to figure that out, I'm going to go to my CL chart. In this case, I'm going to use an 8 range, although I'd normally trade off a 7 range. And what I'm going to look at is none of this. Forget that. Too much noise. I'm going to look at, probably lost type 1 by now, but kind of don't give a shit, because this is how you make money, by figuring this stuff out. So now I've looked at this, right? So now I have another piece of information here. Forget this. So now, number one thing I know, last push up, right? Clearly, last push up. But what I want to know about is biggest push up. As a matter of fact, there, we'll just minimize this. Okay, so what I want to know about is in the last 24 hours, here's my biggest push down. Clearly, right, from yesterday, right here. It goes from here. That's a delta wave. If you don't know what a delta wave is, contact me. I'll help you with it. Please send you a link, right? And when I look at that wave, right, I can see that this was the top of that down wave. Now notice when I get above 62.40, see how they try to press back into that wave? So now I want to go back and look and go, well, what was the mid of that wave? I'm very interested in the mid of that wave, right? And if you'll look, the mid of that wave was right here. From here, we'll just ballpark it. So see, now I'm adding a new piece of information. The mid of that wave becomes very important. Notice we closed above the mid of the wave, backside tested. 50, 60s, no matter how you measure them, are important in the market, right? So now we go sideways, and I'm above that. Notice that I'm trending up, lo and behold, into my resistance. And I get, right, a big push up, but not the biggest push up. The biggest push up's all the way over here. So actually this high, right, you can argue, is being hit on divergence into a white zone, which is my strongest resistance point, right? So I might be going, hey, I'm willing to shorten here. What do I need to see to make this work? Okay, so next thing that I need to make this work is I need to get underneath this wave. It was the last strongest push up of the day. The bottom of that wave is right here. So I know I've got the white zone sitting up here, right? It looks like this, roughly 63.0 something, right? Looks roughly like this. I pushed in. Here's my last wave up. Here's the mid of that wave, right? And in order to break down, I'm going to have to get under this and hold under this. Now, this isn't a tragedy right here until we get underneath the wave, right? And what do I also notice? Very interesting, biggest wave down, and I couldn't print a single bar, even get it underneath price-wise, underneath the previous up wave. So that's not entirely bearish, right? Because guess what happens? If we get above this, this is everyone who's looking at back on the 13th who said, hey, we rolled to the downside. This must be roll to the downside day, right? I'm going to not get caught. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you, right? Or vice versa. I'm ADD, so I just reversed that, but everyone knows what I mean. Okay. Everyone's trying to get the same rip and crush it to the downside trade. And maybe they get it, right? Your first clue as of right now will begin underneath this. And then secondly, if you are going to roll to the downside, you must get below this, because this is your last biggest push up, which means this whole wave right here. Oh, sorry, this whole wave right here. Fill color, we'll make it light pink because, I don't know, I'm in a pinkish kind of mood. You don't get underneath that 62. All you're going to do is slam into support where everyone bought last, right? That's the, on delta, that was the maximum delta to the upside, right? And see how they try to exhaust it there? And once they got above, they pushed. So even from 63, right, from all the way up here, even if you get it to the downside, expect responsive buyers here, right? And if you want to see how that tied in, just go all the way back to the 13th, right, and do the same analysis. So on the 13th, right, notice clearly, if I pull this in, That was my last biggest push. This became my new biggest push. That became my most important bar right there, right? So I'm going to highlight this from here to here. Sorry about all the colors on this chart, but there's an algo running in the background there. Spread it out, right? Biggest push to the upside. So first thing I want to do is go, hey, I need to get underneath this bar, right? And I need to draw the mid of this line. Oops, wrong tool. Okay, I like that. That line becomes my de facto important point. And you'll notice that morning, right? See how we didn't get underneath? We didn't get underneath. We got underneath, and it was all over, right? Why? The biggest push came at the very high. And as soon as we were underneath that wave, everyone was trapped, and it was sayonara, see you later. Sayonara, see you later. It was all downhill from there, right? So you have a pretty damn good model right now between the day resistance, the 50, 60s, and looking at the waves of knowing what you need to get underneath to look for setups. And notice once we got underneath, and by the way, I had a shitty day this day because I did not do all this work, which is why I'm slowing down and doing it right now. I did not do all this work that day, and I took a long right in here and got stopped, and then I took another stop right in here, and I totally blew this day. Just FYI, you have to do all the steps if you want to pull out profitable trades. If you try to do what I often do, which is trade too many markets, right? You will miss small details that will cost you money. So I'm slowing down because I think there's huge opportunity in CL, right? And the answer to that question is once you're underneath that, the whole process starts over again, and you can see they just annihilated it from there. So now I can come back over here. And by the way, you'll notice, right? Notice what we're pushing back up into and having difficulty with. That's the exact same location, right? Only this time, this is my last push up, right? But it's not my biggest push up. My biggest push up is all the way over here. So in order to release, I've got to get underneath 62.20, and I'll grant you 62.80 to 62.20 is a decent trade if it sets up, but you better get underneath this last wave at least first, or look for a new biggest wave on the upside, or expect that they're going to grind you up and push you to the upside, and everyone in the room knows what we'll be looking for in terms of setup, right? And notice this big push down right here. That's a pretty damn big push to the downside, right? You get above that push, meaning above 63, you're going to have people scrambling to cover that trade. That's all there is to it. That was a giant push attempt to the downside, and it didn't get above the last wave, much less the biggest wave, okay? So that's my analysis on CL. Everyone has the chart. And for anyone who wants it from here, I'll just post it up on StockTwits. And then it'll go to Twitter and everywhere else. So post. CL 516. There you go. Everyone in the world will have it now. Okay, so next, let's do ES real quick and then move on with our day and get started. Everyone pretty much knows what I'm going to do anyways, right? So let's just do it from let's skip over ES and Q in terms of the in-depth and just go look at the waves. Let's just look at the charts really quick. So I'm going to get rid of this chart because I don't need it anymore. I'm going to get rid of this chart because I don't need it anymore. And I'm going to throw this over here because I might need that chart. Okay. And now let's get rid of this. And let's get ES really quick. ES profile, right? Notice we're pushing into these big picture 50, 60s and holding, right? Let's erase all this and see where we're at. Number one. What am I interested in? Resistance on the upside. Old swing high right there. Current swing low right there. 50-60. Why do I care about the 50-60? Because everybody else looks at the 50-60, right? It's the easiest thing in the world to measure. It provides support and resistance, whether you agree with it or not. That is the upside target on ES. That is where we're going to meet resistance. There's an open gap. There's a final anomaly right in here that needs to be repaired. Over under here would exhaust. I'd expect resistance from 2880, 2900. No shocker, right? Anybody with a basic knowledge of charting can do that. Okay, this repairs the chart on the downside. This would normally be a white zone. I expect support down there. This is in the middle. It's usually weak. However, it's right on the border of prior day's value area low. And so I'd expect at least an attempted response there. And then this should be pretty choppy area to trade in via Asia last night. Okay. And I've started no, I'm not one timing to the upside. I'm in balance. See how we're breaking prior day's low and prior day's high, right? And on the edges is becoming the best place to trade. We've started with a two-sided market. If you haven't noticed, it's just been a slow grind two-sided market, right? We're not straight up. We're not straight down. We're both sides, right? So I know I'm not bearish for continuation until I get below 2,800, right? And I'm not set for a run unless I get above 2,900. I obviously had 2 days where they tried to hold it here and here, pushed up in here, tried to break it. They all got smoked. There are buyers trapped in this area, I assure you. Get above those buyers, and they can push and repair areas below. Hold or fail to get above, expect rejection from this area, and then just go to the chart and look at the waves. So when we jump to the waves, let's do that really quick. There we go. So this is a 1.5 range bar chart. While the ranges are a little bit wider, I'm more comfortable in it. Okay. So if we look at this chart, again, paying no attention to this down here, because it doesn't help us right now. Okay, couple of pieces. Clearly, at 5:30, we had a massive freaking delta push, right? Okay, what's behind it and what's the biggest? Well, this is the biggest. Why is that important to me? Because I don't get underneath that, there's no slippage to the downside. That's right here. You'll notice when we got underneath, they finally rolled to the downside. So I'm going to go back and look at that. That was yesterday. And I know if I want a big short or a big roll to the downside, I've got to get below that. So I'm just going to keep pressing that open if I can finally get to it. It's from here to here. Okay. Now I have a measure. Notice we have not gotten below it. Notice when we did get below it. So this is a great example. See how we got below it? And see how there's no delta push? We get below on total delta divergence there. Of course, it was Asia, right? So when we come back into it, backside test, see how it acts as resistance now? And then we get above. Okay, why is that important? This was their attempt to break, and they lost all momentum on the downside. It just fell off like a rock, right? So when they trap back in, just like any other trap back in, they squeezed them up. That's still my bogey. If I'm not trading below 28.45, there's no short. Put that in a note. What do you need? 28.45 and no delta divergence and the inability to get back above. So there's your good clue. That's your clue that, hey, if you're bearish, that's where your bearishness starts, right? Number two, notice that this was clearly my biggest wave down right here of the last couple of days, right? It was either this one or this one. I'm going to go with this one as my most recent information, right? There's the top, there's the bottom, and that wave, notice how little return for effort, even though it continued underneath. Man, they just didn't get much return. It was the first clue that there was a problem. And you want to know why there was a problem there? Because it was shoving right into the buy, right? So they tried to break and they kind of failed. They came back, and many hours later in Asia, they were able to slow grind it through. And once they finally slow grinded it through, it took so much energy to do that, right? They just ran out of juice underneath. That's a great model for what a trap in a spring looks like, is running out of juice because you just had to spend all your energy pushing through the wave, right? So the top of that wave comes roughly right here. Notice when we get above that wave, it's going to be a short squeeze. See that? As soon as you're above, that's where everyone pushed. They all have to come in. This is my last push up. It equals my last biggest push up because I have a yellow line there, right? So I know now from this, currently, my new marker now becomes this. This is what I have to get underneath to go lower, right? And I need a big push and I need to hold underneath it when I get underneath. So notice this morning, we attempted underneath. Biggest delta push to the downside, right? This is the top of that delta push. Notice we get underneath, right? Huge push. You know what that garnered? 2 bars underneath that wave. Like, wow, that's not scary, right? That's right before the open. Now notice that we've come back in, right? We've come back in. We've closed back in, immediate short squeeze. And where's the top of the wave? Right here. As soon as we close above the wave, see ya. Thank you for participating. And once again, I'm still not ready at 8:30, guys. I'm sorry about that. I'm doing my best. I'll get the charts out, and I guess I have to start the previews at 7:45 or 7:30, so I'll be ready by 8:30 because I just talk a lot. So not worried about it, right? There's your push. There's your last wave down. And then if you'll look, we also end up with speed bar, shift up, then fractal speed bar, shift up, and see ya, which were your early clues that you could get into that trade and push to the upside, right? And that's all we're looking for all day long, whether it's CL, NQ, or ES. So that's a lot of work, right? I just went through a lot of steps to figure out what I'm looking for between the daytime frame. I'm not going to cover NQ because NQ is going up if ES is going up, right? But that's what we're looking for as we're trading, right? So now what's your job? Okay, number one, I can't do this alone, right? It's impossible to cover 3 fast-moving markets by myself, right? So I get a lot of help from Bill. I get a lot of help from Daniel, right? I get help from Randy does a good job pointing out where the big waves are up and down, right? So the guys in the room, I encourage y'all, post it when you see it. Hey, we're underneath the biggest wave. Hey, we're above the biggest delta push down. Hey, there's a fractal setup, right? Because they're all posted. Y'all all have the levels, or we're into a key level. Because I have some disadvantages just like anyone else, right? So trading is a very solitary business, right? We're all sitting alone in a room, doors shut, no one's around us, and we can have good behavior or bad behavior, but also we can try to do too much, right? So the whole goal of this is to make this a team effort, right? So I'm sharing my knowledge and experience, right, and hope of 20 years basically, in the hopes that it makes you a better trader, but it also makes me a better trader too. And if we work as a team and we find solutions as a team, we should be able to trade very, very well, right? Unfortunately, the last couple of months, 2 months specifically, all the opportunities have been coming between 8 and 8:30, and I have not traded between 8 and 8:30 for about a year, maybe more, because I did not do very well in that 8 to 8:30. But all the setups are coming in that 8 to 8:30 period, or we go into this slow, ridiculous grind up where there's very few opportunities, right? So my efforts last night were I've rearranged my schedule to get the charts out in the evening. I'm going to do my best to shut up earlier, like I'm going to do today right now at 8:45, right? I look for my trade setups. There's no econ today, so there's nothing to worry about at the top of the hour, right? And my hope is that we'll get some volatility, but that's been kind of a vague hope lately, okay? So let's do NQ really quick since I've already missed the ES trade. It's already gone away. Let's do NQ's levels really quick here. Oh, and by the way, the last piece of this is fractal, right? Shift up, flip, right? Fractal shift up, flip. That lets you know that was coming on top again above that wave. I wish, Bill, did you get that? I didn't get it. I hope you got it. I did not take it. I'm full of remorse and regret at this point because odds are we're going to grind all day long. Yeah, I see the divergence, Zach. The problem is now in the biggest wave, right? So see that? So Zach has a great point. See this on ES? He's pointing out we do have the biggest wave up, right? So this is really cool here, actually, right? What do you know about that biggest wave? Well, we know a couple of things. A, we're getting divergence into the high, right? So here, let's do this. Number one, we are clearly getting a MACD. This is a modified, bastardized MACD is what that is, suited to my own purposes. We are getting divergence. We don't know where that's going to turn, but we're getting divergence, right? So you can see that as it's coming from back over here. No matter how you look at it, right? That wasn't divergence, but now this is, right? Assuming that we turn there, right? And I can see price going up, number one. Number two, clearly biggest wave up. So what am I going to do with that? Well, hey, I know now that if I get below 2863, warning. Next, assuming this wave ends somewhere here, I'm going to draw the base of the wave, right? My first clue will be getting underneath the 5060. And really, because that's the biggest wave on the top, I want to actually see us get below. Be aware when the biggest wave comes from the top and we get underneath, it can lead to a straight up long liquidation, all right? So it's not always the case, and I usually want to see some kind of backside setup, but it can end up with your setup being way down here. Next, here's the open US Open. That's the opening balance range right there. So not only do we have to get below the 2863, realize that some people are going to try to hold that initial balance right there, and getting underneath that's also pretty critical. So you expand your range a little bit of what's important, right? And then lastly, right, we know on trend day up, what don't we do? Here's the opening print roughly, right? We don't get behind and close behind the 50-60 on a 5-minute bar. So see all this? This all becomes very critical. This whole area becomes very critical. And the first warning sign will be getting behind the 50 retrace on a closing basis, but then you have to get behind. So see how, if this was way stretched out, right, this would be easier, but now you just go and say, okay, that's 2860, essentially 2866 to 2860 becomes a critical area, right? And now I know if I get underneath, what am I looking for? Pushes back up, that'll set up a roll to the downside. What am I not looking for? Well, if I don't get behind this, right, and I don't get behind the mid of whatever this, and there's the wave, right? If I don't get behind the mid of the wave, and even if I get behind the mid of the wave, what do I expect? Responsive buyers in this area. So now I want to clear this whole thing out. If it's going to be bearish, I want to get underneath this whole wave, right? And then your decision on where you're going to make that trade depends on the level of aggressiveness you're comfortable with, knowing that everyone else is doing the same analysis on this, and there's going to be responsive buyers in this area. For me, the warning sign right now would be getting below the day session 62 retrace, which we want to stretch out now, right? If it's going to be a push to the downside, right? Now that's stretched up here. That's my 62 retrace. Again, I'd like this, now that we're up, just to go and just blast, right? And even if it blasts, I know going forward, I want to hang on to this whole wave right here, right? That whole thing getting underneath that area. So as of now, that's my biggest wave, right? So it becomes mission critical. I'll color that. Heck, I like that color. No. Fill color. Here, we'll do this. Okay. Getting underneath that area, that's my biggest wave. So now as I look to the right, no matter how far that goes, right, I'm going to expect two things. A, that if we do retrace to the 50, to the mid of that wave, I'm going to expect responsive buyers there, of which I will probably be one. I'm willing to attempt that 50-60 back in along with a setup, right? Number two, notice that I'm not stressed about it going up. I'm not looking for a short. Why? I just got the biggest wave. I'm not going to short into the top of the biggest wave. Even if that turns out to be the top, who gives a shit? Why would you do that? Like it's going to be if you can get underneath this without divergence, it has the potential of being a fantastic short. But shorting in here and going, well, I've got it, and I know that we're going to roll down, and this is whatever resistance. Well, you're going to have to sit through pain and torture while they get through this. So why, as a day trader, why the hell would you bother with that, right? Why wouldn't you just wait for them to pull it back and reset for you, right? And further, we don't necessarily have divergence yet because this hasn't crossed. It's just setting up, right? And we clearly don't have delta divergence on top. We have the biggest push that we got to get underneath, okay? Let's go do NQ really quick. So see how, Zach, that's excellent, right? Yeah, and it's open drive higher in the 5 minutes. So Zach had an excellent point. It was potential divergence, but it hasn't triggered yet because you have to get that cross on the stupid lines to actually have divergence, right? But it was, the potential was there, right? And so what I want to see now is a push back in here, and hopefully I get an opportunity somewhere today to get the 50-60 retrace. But if we truly trend day up, I'm not going to have that opportunity, and that's okay, right? So next, let's go to do NQ really quick. Ah, look at all those lines. It's magnificent. Biggest push down. Here, let's erase all this. That was a support level from a bigger level. I don't know what that's coming off of. We'll get rid of that for now. Okay. There we go. Biggest push down, hands down. Right? Above the biggest wave. Top of the biggest wave is right here. See ya. Backside tested this morning. Son of a gun. Okay, I'm just going to have to start these at 7:30 or something. So I'm ready to go. Okay, so I know this acts as support, right? So I want that highlighted. I want to know back to my right. I'm going to have to color coordinate these, and I will, guys. I just haven't figured out what the color coordination is going to be. For now, we will color this, I don't know, light pink. There we go. We know that's a critical area. Number 2, where's our biggest push up? Okay, who's the winner chicken dinner here? This guy is. Right off the base, of course. So notice that even if I get underneath this guy, I've got this biggest push down. And what does this biggest push down represent? Trap sellers, right? So do I now care about getting underneath this? Nope. Why? Because I had to get through all of these guys again. And all these guys are going to be very anxious to want to cover, right? It's a bull market, and you're pushing down to where you sold or you shorted, you're going to freaking cover. So this 75.13, 74.80 becomes a very key area, right? So now I'm going to look all the way up here. Man, my talking cost me a lot this morning. So now I'm going to look all the way up here. Damn. I'm going to look all the way up here. Simon, I had the right idea, and I still couldn't get this done in time. And I'm going to measure these waves. And in order to retest this area, right, what am I going to do? 8:30 open. Why don't I have my balance in here? SW. Initial balance. I know that. Thought I had this here. Guess I didn't. That is not correct. Nope. There we go. There's my initial balance. You can see once we got above the initial balance, see, took off, fractal, shift, right? And the flip happened earlier, right? The flip was right here. See that in there, guys? Damn. Okay, Simon will get this right. See that right in there? Let's see. Last push down. Let's see what the open looked like. Last push down into the shorts. Fudge. Cross. I don't have the. Oh, there it is. There's fract. So see this how they stopped it by a tick right here, right after the open. That's the pain in the butt of trading the open. But that's all right. You had purple bar, fractal, shift up, pink bar. Those are all algos. I know on YouTube that you're like, what do they mean? I'm not going to go through it, but they all tell me there's a lot of energy being exposed there. And then there's the flip right there. See that where we went flat? Actually, the flip occurred the bar before, and they just one ticked underneath here on the open, which is fine. I should have had that. So that's exactly what I wanted to take. At any rate, perfect open. Now, obviously, what I want to do, right, is keep tabs on the 50-60 back. Shit, watch, I talked myself into the most expensive coaching session ever. That's all right. That's what I got to get underneath 74. If we don't get underneath 75.40 or whatever, that's got to constantly keep moving the mid, right? So Bill, I guess you can throw that mid up there for me, right? Or we'll discuss how to get that without it looking like a crazy number of deals, right? So that's as open drive high as you get. You do not want to short that. If you want to be the hero, be my guest. You got to at least get a massive wave on top and get underneath it to make it roll down. And at any rate, that's my 2 cents. Guys, I apologize. I screwed that up. I should have been done before 8:30. So I will get here earlier. Is what we will work out, right? I will find a way to get it done earlier, or I'll record the preview. So the W and the biggest wave down. Thank you, buddy. Let's go look at CL real quick. CL 7 range. CLM 5 minutes. I can't find my damn chart, Bill. Hold on a second. Son of a gun. Well, we'll do it with an 8 range. Screw it. Oh, you know what? It's because I have it parked. I know where I have it parked. Right here. Okay. Cross. I got to get this on CL. Fractal, shift up, flip, long, right? So that should have been my long right there at 62.90, okay? And we are getting above the biggest wave down, right? And if we hold above that wave, thanks, Bill. Let's do the work on it real quick and see if we can get set up. Look, rejection, above. I will attempt a long into the backside test of this area right here, guys. I'll already tell you without a signal even. I will attempt a long there at 62. Let's just call it 62.90. Stop 62.75, 15 tick stop, right? And that should also bring me back to a 50.60 on the swing low here to the left. The uppers. I will attempt that 62.90 to 62.80 for long if it'll backside test it one more time. Hopefully this doesn't go. And then let's take a look at the bigger picture here. Wow, that was a big push down with no basis whatsoever. And there's your biggest wave below you, right? So it looks like they're going to annihilate the shorts, which they should, above 62.60, 62.80. Zach, did you carry that overnight? Oh, you closed it in today. I see what you say. Well, I speak you posted. Well, you did a great job with that. I know you survived that stop by a tick. So fantastic job. It's just unfortunate that it didn't go yesterday. I thought it would go and it waited till today. So we were looking long 61.80 to 61.95 area yesterday set up, and it just wouldn't pop. So it needed to build more energy. That's what it did. So I am going to attempt a long here, guys. Right? I'm going to attempt a long for a 15 tick stop. I'm just going to do it blindly. I'm not even waiting for the setup here at 61.85. So let's talk about that for a second, because that's my best opportunity. I'm watching other markets. Let's talk about that for a second. I'm taking a trade without a setup, right? I'm just going to go, hey, the mid of that is going to hold, right? Which leaves me open to the fact that there's just one big seller can come in and blast that area, right? Or that I missed the trade completely because I'm waiting for the 62.90 to 61.85, right? So what you've got to know if you're in the room, right, or if I'm coaching you, right, what's your setup? And the question isn't where are you comfortable making money? Shit, everyone's comfortable making money everywhere, right? Who have you ever met that goes, I'm really uncomfortable just making money? No one, right? Everyone wants to take the trade as long as it'll pay them, right? If I told you that if you take that blue bar, it's worth $1,000 if you take one contract. I don't know a person in the room that wouldn't buy one contract, right? I would, but I don't know that for a fact, right? So what do I want? For me, my brain, my thought process goes, I'd really like to get a trial right into this area right here, right? Now, will they give it to me? I don't know. We've now closed above the biggest down wave, and I got to tell you, it's very likely that if we get a backside test right to that 62.98, if it doesn't close back underneath it, we're likely to get a response like this. It's likely to do this, doink, like that. So 62.98 becomes a viable location if you're willing to take the stop. right? So the question never is, where are you uncomfortable making money? The question is, where are you uncomfortable losing money? Or where are you willing to lose money? What amount of evidence do you need before, just put it this way, before you hand your dollar to me, or your $1,000, your $10,000, your $100,000? Because that's what we're doing, right? We're saying, I'm willing to, excuse me. We're all saying, right? Hey, I want this if it'll pay me, right? But that's not the question. Shit, everyone's happy making money, right? It's only a question of more. The real question is, right? The real question is, where are you comfortable losing money? Where are you willing to give up your trade? Where are you willing to get bone crushed, right? Where are you willing to go, I'm having a shitty day? And what I notice is traders who are able to make that distinction on a higher level, right? And forego and be really clear, right? So this is okay. This is fractal shift up, right? And speed bar shift up. It's an okay setup, right? The real distinction I notice in people that make a lot of money. So I'm going to go Peter, who's a phenomenal options trader, right? I don't know Zach very well, but Zach's been pretty clear of what he's interested in trading and what he's looking for. Joyce actually is pretty damn clear where she's what did I say? Okay, and so the whole point of that is, right, on traders that I know outside of myself, right? So I have a high level of confidence that when I lose money, I will make it back, right? I'm pretty good at seat of the pants trading. I'm not so good at being disciplined as highly as I'd like to be, right? And I'm really good at reading these charts, right? And then there's another quality, right? I know a whole group of people that are fantastic at doing charts, and they suck at trading, okay? Doing charts, understanding charts, and trading. What was I going to say? Excuse me. I lost my train of thought. Oh, they're great at charts. They're great at reading, right? Is not the same as being a great trader, okay? I can draw lots of pretty charts. I'm really good at making the charts. They don't make me any money unless I take the step of knowing what I'm going to take and where I'm willing to lose money. And when I lose that money, I've got to be totally willing to lose that money, right? What I see bad traders do, since I've missed this trade too, and everything's going straight up, right? We might as well just continue. What I've noticed, right, is that guys who are trying to constantly avoid all stops, gals too, they are trying to avoid all stops, are in bigger trouble than people who don't give a fuck about any stops, okay? And the reason for that is the people who don't care about any stops and they mix it in with a little bit of actual knowledge and setup are going to have some winning trades, especially if they'll push it, right? But people who put their entire focus on, I don't want to lose money, and I'm going to strive even after I'm in a trade. Like, for example, if we hit this right here, I am taking 62.88 or 62.90, whatever it is. I'm taking it, right? I'm already made a commitment to it. I'm taking it unless I just see it just whoosh through in 10 seconds. And even then, I might actually have the order sitting there limit if it starts to approach it back in again, right? And if I get stopped, I'm going to go, oh, wow. Right. And what I experience is with newer traders in particular is when they come in, they go, this guy loses money. I'm out of here. Okay. It's total fantasy that there's a trader out there who doesn't lose money. What isn't a fantasy is that there's people who make money month over month. Now, guys that I see that are bad is they take their trade and they're not committed to it. They take the trade and they go, I hope my stop doesn't get hit. I'm going to watch it. And I got to tell you, it used to me, I didn't have that issue myself until I started running the room. And you know what happened to me? I started getting self-conscious of how many losses I had while other people were trading. Because what I noticed was when I take a trade, right, and I take a stop, I was going to take my next setup. And then I would call, let's say, whoever, Bill or John or whatever you want, John Doe. And I go, hey, John Doe, did you take the next setup? Nope, I was stopped on the first one. And I go, what about you, Simon? I go, yeah, I took it as a perfect setup, right? And so then I'd end up with nice P&L on the day, right? And they would end up with losses. And it would go like that multiple times over periods of weeks. And they would get demoralized. And then I would get demoralized, right? So then what did I do to try to fix that? I started saying, hey, why don't I just manage the trade uber carefully once we're in it? And I'll look for all the little signs that might show that it might fail, right? And then I did it on every freaking trade. And you know what started happening? So I built this whole room on the idea that you could take the zones and get 2 points, which you can. It works, right? It works successfully. And in some markets, it works really, really successfully, right? Some markets, it works really, really successfully, okay? But, right? But what would happen is I'd end up with a room full of people that were all taking their profits at 2 points on ES I'm referring to, right? And then what would happen? They never hit the freaking home run. So my adjustment, the way I'm attacking that, the way I've attacked it, the way I'm choosing to attack it, that's probably going to get a response, just FYI, when it tags. We've gotten above this wave. These people are kind of screwed. If you could build this in stages where you take 62.98 and added that 62.90, stop 62.75, you probably have a very good chance of getting a continuation to the upside, guys. It's going to have to get underneath. Where's the biggest wave? I believe this is still it. Yeah, it's going to have to get underneath this to have any chance of rolling lower. In the mid of that. See how it's all in the same place? Whether these guys are looking to defend or these shorts are caught out, they're going to defend that area no matter what. Right? You're going to have to get through all of that for a short to work, maybe, but that 62.90 to 62.80 is pretty juicy. I am going to attempt the 63.98, just FYI. They'll give it to me. Let's just call it 63 even to see if they'll fill me. So I'm limiting long 63. And then I'm going to limit long 62.90 for an average of 62.95, stop 62.75. Okay, so I'm splitting the trade. Leaving my stop in. And that stop actually is going to range over 62.75 to 62.72, so I don't get blasted on one big run. Okay, so I'm limit 63, add 62.90, and I really don't want to get. I really don't want to get underneath 62.80 on this trade. I'd like to get filled at 63. They may not fill me, but there's my limit. Okay, where I was going with. So what I started to do is go, well, I'm going to micromanage this. Maybe I can keep everyone from stopping. And then I started stopping out of good trades, right? Instead of just putting the stop 2 points behind the zone and letting the trade work out. And then when I was scaling, everyone was out because everyone was a 1 and 2 contract trader, or many were 1 and 2 contract trader. The only guys I saw making a lot of money, right, were the guys who were trading 10, 15, and 20 and 30 contracts in ES. I got no fill on that, by the way. The only guys I saw making money, although I'm still sitting there at 63, if they'll fill me. Again, I'm attempting a continuation on trend day up. If it gets behind 62.80, I'm screwed. On that trade, I'll get stopped. I will not move my stop on that, by the way. Unless I get the biggest wave to the upside, and then we get behind the 50 of that wave and underneath that wave, and then this scenario changes, but we're not there yet, okay? So the whole point behind that, the whole point behind the whole deal was no one was making huge sums of money. I had guys that were consistent for periods and then inconsistent for periods as the rotations opened up and down, right? And what I noticed with everyone, myself included, right, was that managing the trade after you were in it was a really shitty way to make a lot of money. You avoided some stops and you kept yourself out of a boatload of winning trades. So I have a different philosophy now, which I've always had for myself, but now I practice it in the room as uncomfortable as it freaking is for me. Once I make a commitment to the trade, as I have right here, right, I've committed to taking that 63. I've committed to taking 62.90. I'm just going to take the stop. But then I flipped the other way. I looked and said, hey, I'm going to push. What do I expect? Well, when I come and look at the chart, this is a great example. I can find my 5-minute chart. I expect to push to 63.60 to 64. That's my upside target. Okay, we're in the white zone. So I have a challenge. I'm taking the trade in a white zone, right? No fill yet. I'm there with 130 other contracts. I did not get filled. It tagged it and didn't fill it. You may want to get 63.01. Don't want to move my trade up for a penny, but I will. Screw it. I'm moving to 63.01. Bid. I'm now at 63.01 and no filled. Son of a gun. And now I'm there. Well, someone's chasing it. That's not me. So I'm right below. But you can see the guy with 100 contracts. There's someone with 100 contracts trying to get filled at 63. You can see him chasing it in the dome. Anyways, I'm with another 100 contracts at 63.01. Everyone's trying to move up on it. That thing, the shorts are screwed. I'm telling you right now. I'm not going to go past 63.01, but the shorts are screwed on that, most likely. So this is the upside target, right? That's what I'm shooting for. If I get above this, or if I can get a trailer, that's the extended target is the prior swing high. And then there's a 65.20 up there. That's a valid location. I got no filled on 63.01. I just missed it. Bid 63 and did not fill, thanks to the schmuck who added a ton of contracts in front of me. So what I'm going back to is guys that make money, guys that don't make money, right? The guys that are making money, and Daniel's a fantastic example. The guys who are going, hey, I'm really going to wait for a particular setup, right? Or I'm really going to wait for X, Y, and Z. So I'm willing in my trading, right? I'm willing to take stops, day trading it. And then I'll have days like I had on, I think it was Friday, where I made almost 100 points on my trailers, right? And I really pressed the bulk size of that up on NQ, right? And I can shift gears between the day trading and the larger scalping and the larger swings intraday, right? I can usually make that change if I'm not paranoid about losing money. So then I'll have my other. So what do I do to fix it in case I'm on tilt or I'm just making shitty decisions? 2 stops back to back. Even if I haven't hit my max stop for the day, which I wouldn't on 2 stops, hour break in whatever product I'm trading. 3 stops in a row across multiple products, complete halt for the morning or the day, depending on where my stop is. And then 2% down in my account right now puts me at a big pause, an hour and a half, and maybe a halt for the end of the day after I evaluate my mental condition, right, for trading. But I'm not going to try to avoid my stops, right? Instead, I'm going to pour all my energy into what's my setup. And once I've made that decision, like I've made a decision here, I'm taking 63.01, I'm taking 62.90, and I'm stopping 62.75. That's one trade. That'll be one full stop, right? If I get hit on that, it'll be 20 cents from 62.95 and a half now to 62.75. And then I will reevaluate what my next trade is. And then, most importantly, so I'm showing you this trade. If I get stopped right here, it's not a bad day. I might be emotional about it and go, that sucks. But if I get stopped right there, I will just go, I need to maybe improve my process for entering, or more importantly, and who talks about this a lot, is Thinking in Bets. What is her name? Freaking escaping me, but I will tell you right now because I have it on my phone. Thinking in Bets by, gosh, I love her book. I can't remember her name. Annie Duke, world champion poker player, right? So when you do your analysis, losing traders do their analysis on the result. Winning traders do their analysis on the setup. So I was in the right place. It just didn't fill me, right? I'm still willing to be in the right place, right? And get the continuation to the upside. And the truth of the matter is, where we were long, right, was over here. Where did we get long? 61.90, right? Right there. That was our long location that and it just wouldn't pop. It had to get above that resistance off to the left, and we just couldn't get it to pop, right? So the fact of the matter is, if I was willing to hold overnight, which I'm not, right, and I was willing to hold for long periods of time, which I'm not, I'd be sitting on 100 some odd tick trade. And the difference here is on CL. What's the other thing that I know about CL? CL can move 100 ticks in the U.S. session, so I don't care, all right? But now I'm trying to get the continuation on this, and I have not gotten filled on the 63, and I always run the risk that I'm topping this trade, right? I'm marking the top on this trade, and I'm susceptible to getting even a small sell-off will stop me out on that. That's all right. There's still 121 contracts sitting in front of me at 63.02. So if someone's chasing this up, I'm not going past 63.01. That's all there is to it. They fill me, they don't. And ES and NQ are clearly running, and there's nothing for me to do about that. I need an extension down to get filled on that, and that hasn't happened yet. So I'm going to see one thing here. Somewhere there will be a good entry on ES for continuation trade, but it's not there yet for me. I'm really frustrated that I didn't take that open, that I wasn't ready by 8:30, but I will work to improve it. Any questions? In the meantime, no fill at 63.01, and I may go to breakfast and come back after 11 because I'm trend day up. This turns into a slow grind with no one interested in selling. So, shit. It turned into a very expensive coaching session. Any questions? We'll just keep this off to the side here and see if they decide to fill me at any point. That sucks. That's okay. That guy is still chasing up in CL. Someone needs to cover really badly. He's bumping 100 contracts every few ticks, right? That is a sign of someone who's in bad shape. He just got his 100 filled, and now he's back at 63.02 trying to fill another 100. Now he's back at 63. He's trying to take a short. That's a sign not of buying, because if he was buying, he'd just be hitting the ask and zooming up. He's trying to get out. See, he just jumped on with 140. If you look at your dome, you'll see it. If you have market depth, but he's 148 at 63.02, 101 at 63. There's 109 at 63. Someone's trying to cover and is in pain, and they're preventing me from getting filled. But fuck it, I'm not going to chase it. So, any questions? Thanks, Joyce. In the meantime, here we sit and here we wait. My guess is CL has NQ has another leg up. It just looks good. There's nothing I can do about that. There's nothing I want to do about that. CL. Remember to keep drawing your 50-60 back on that. Let's see if I got anything else. Where are my 5-minute charts? Yeah, ES. ES is into the white zone. If you feel like shorting trend day up, be my guess, not my cup of tea. NQ, there's a 5-minute. Right into yellow zone. Right? But that is as trend up as it gets. Again, the blue zones are the weakest zones. Right? So it offered resistance. It traded through. That's the target. That's extended target. It's on fire. I'm not the man to stand in front of on fire trades. And it looks like I'm not going to get filled over here either. So what I'm going to do, I have my 63.01, and hell, I'm just going to back it back down to 63. I'm going to back it back down to 63. And what I'm going to do is re-weight this 1/3 at 63, 2/3 at 62.90, because, well, shit, I'm disappointed they didn't fill me. So 1/3 at 63, 2/3 at 62.90, same stop, 62.75. It'll be a little less than 20 ticks, probably 17 ticks net of stop. Okay, and the target's still above 76.03 to 76.12. And I talked myself right out of a trade this morning. And once again, the first 30 minutes was where you had to trade. So I hope someone caught it. I didn't. But that doesn't mean I have to have a losing trade. Oh, and there's one more piece to that, right? I am good at intraday volatility, right? When the market's just slamming up and down, that's my best environment. Unfortunately, it's the fewest amount of environments that we get. That's where I really, really excel. That's where my P&L comes from, guys. That's where I get my doubling my account, tripling my account over a period of months when we get that high volatility. I'm not great at this, right? I can read it. I'm adjusting to get better at this, obviously, but I'm not great at it. And it's gone on CL, pulling the order. Really. Yeah. Pull the order. And I'm going to take a little walk. So guys on YouTube, thanks for joining us. I hope y'all learned something. If you'd like to join us in the room, email me, tradeandperform@gmail.com, TRADE, gmail.com. If you don't know what you're doing, don't trade. Stop. I don't know a person in this room or anywhere else that didn't want an extra year or two to learn how to trade before the money they lost while they were trying to figure it out. Approach it like it's a course, not a course in college, like it's a 4-year degree, right? You almost all of us, or many of us in here, right, studied for 4 years for a degree. We paid a shitload of money, unless you went in Texas, which has a huge oil trust. You paid a shitload of money for your education. In my particular case, I paid $10,000 for my education, right? And I had it paid off before I got out of college. But most schools aren't like that. What was my tuition at UT? I think my tuition was $1,000 a semester, is what it was. Or maybe it was $1,000 a year is what it was. It was something ridiculous like that, right? The books were more expensive than the tuition. So long story short, okay, we spent 4 years, a lot of time invested in a degree to work for, if you're my age, when we got out of school, $30,000 to $40,000 a year if you were lucky, right? Maybe $20,000 a year if you had a degree in accounting or business or something like that, and you worked your ass off, right? And if you're doing really good now, you're making $100,000 a year. Right? For the majority of people, they're making somewhere with degrees. If you work and you have a career, you're making 70 to 100K, and you're hoping you don't get fired, right? My suggestion is you spend 4 years for a job that can pay you $100,000 a day if you can build size on it. You can pay you $10,000 a day, and you can work from whatever hours you choose and spend time with your family. It is not easy. Only 5% of people who try it ever make some money, and only 2% make a lot of money, okay? But it is doable. Does not mean it's easy, okay? And you got to know where you make money. So I thought we were going up, and I still don't have it. So same thing on CL. I thought we were going up, and I couldn't make it work yesterday, right? So c'est la vie, no big deal. Yeah. Anyways, I know that I'll get my shots. I'm gonna take my dog for a walk around the park, and I'll be back in a couple minutes. Guys on YouTube, thank you for joining me. Trade smart. Don't blow up. Have a great day. I'll be back tomorrow.